Welcome to the Dilemma Lab. Two worlds chose democracy. One became a paradise, the other collapsed. Why did the same system create opposite futures? At first, the world seemed nothing alike, but both were home to two very different kinds of people. First came the Greens. They chose kindness, hard work, and responsibility. Wherever they lived, communities grew stronger and life flourished. Then came the Reds. They chose selfishness, greed, and short-term gains. Wherever they lived, trust faded, communities weakened, and life slowly fell apart. Let's begin with the first world. In the first world, the Greens were the majority. They were builders, helpers, and protectors of their society. Every day, Green families worked in fields, built schools, cleaned streets, and supported their neighbors. When a house caught fire, people rushed to help. When a family struggled to afford food, local shopkeepers stepped in without expecting anything in return. Wherever the Greens lived, life slowly improved. Streets became cleaner, neighborhoods felt safer, and communities grew stronger with each passing year. The Reds were a small minority. While the Greens focused on building, the Reds often created problems. Some stole from markets, damaged public property, or caused trouble in peaceful neighborhoods. Shop owners worried about theft, and families became more cautious after dark. Though the Reds were few, their actions often disrupted the hard work of the many Greens who were trying to make life better. As the years passed, the difference became impossible to ignore. Green volunteers planted trees, repaired buildings, and organized events that brought neighbors together. Children played safely in parks. Families gathered in public squares, and communities continued to grow. Yet, from time to time, the actions of a few Reds created disorder. Celebrations were interrupted, property was damaged, and resources that could have improved society were instead spent repairing what had been broken. Then came a historic day. The people would choose their leaders through democracy. Citizens gathered from every corner of the world and lined up to cast their votes. The future of their society was now in their hands. Some candidates came from the Greens. Others came from the Reds. As the ballots were counted, the entire world waited. When the results were announced, the Green leader had won. Cheers echoed through the streets as crowds celebrated the outcome. The new government introduced policies to protect public spaces, reduce crime, and strengthen local communities. The changes did not happen overnight, but year after year the world became safer, cleaner, and more organized. Now, let's turn to the second world. In the second world, the Reds were the majority. They believed that people should look after themselves first. At first, this seemed harmless. The cities still stood, businesses still opened each morning, families still went to work, and life appeared normal. But beneath the surface, something was changing. When a neighbor needed help, most people assumed someone else would step in. When public spaces were damaged, few felt responsible for repairing them. When struggling families asked for support, many simply focused on their own lives. The Greens were different. Though they were few in number, they volunteered in their communities, helped those in need, repaired neglected places, and worked to bring people together. But they were vastly outnumbered. For every Green trying to strengthen society, there were many Reds who simply walked past. The effects were small at first. A community event was canceled, a playground fell into disrepair, and a local charity shut its doors. Most people barely noticed, but year after year the problems accumulated. Neighborhoods became less connected. Trust between strangers began to fade. Public spaces deteriorated, and people grew more isolated. The world was not collapsing, it was slowly unraveling. Then came a historic day. For the first time in generations, every citizen would choose their leaders through democracy. From villages, towns, and great cities, millions gathered to cast their votes. Some candidates came from the Greens, others came from the Reds. As the final ballots were counted, the entire world waited. Then the results appeared. The Red leader had won. Celebrations erupted across the nation. Fireworks lit the sky and crowds cheered. The majority had chosen leaders who reflected their values, and at first, very little changed. But over the years, the same attitudes that had weakened society became embedded in its institutions. Communities grew weaker, public services declined, and trust continued to disappear. The problems that had once been small became impossible to ignore. People argued about who was to blame. Some blamed the leaders, others blamed changing times. Now, step back and look at both worlds together. Both worlds used democracy. Both worlds held elections. Both worlds gave every citizen a voice. Yet one world grew stronger. The other slowly fell apart. If the system was the same, what made the difference?